Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for returning for another segment of Health Professional Radio. In this segment, we'll be speaking with returning guests Dr. Silvia Morris, Dr. Diane Boykin, and Dr. Angela Walker. They're all joining us to discuss their new book, The Game Plan, A Woman's Guide to Becoming a Doctor and Living a Life in Medicine. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, doctors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
There have been a lot of stories and books. You know, we all watch television and see the dramas, but I don't think I've ever seen anything that was absolutely focused on a woman's perspective in the medical community as a whole. You have all co-authored this book. If you would, each of you, just give us a bit of background about yourself. Tell us where you went to school, what your area of expertise is, and why you got together to create this book. Sylvia?
Yes,
Great.
I will go ahead. So I'm from Los Angeles, California originally. I went to Berkeley undergrad, and we all met at Georgetown School of Medicine. I also completed a master's in public health at Johns Hopkins, and currently live here in Atlanta.
I'm Dr. Angela Walker. I grew up in Texas, went to Texas A&M undergrad, and as the story goes, went to Georgetown for medical school where we all met, and then subsequently did a residency in OBGYN back in Texas. And I went into OB because I love women's health care, and I still see the need for women in women's health care as well as all other areas of medicine, but that's the main focus of the book. The reason why we wrote the book is help guide those women to come along.
Hi, I'm Diane Boykin, Dr. Diane Boykin, and I grew up in New York. I went to Wellesley College and then down to the Washington area, to Georgetown with everyone. And I did my OBGYN training at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I currently practice OBGYN in the Baltimore area. And I, too, agree that women's health is exceptionally important, and I still enjoy doing delivery.
You know, as I mentioned, we've all seen the TV dramas, the movies. It seems that there are a lot of women in these dramas, in these movies and things of that nature. But obviously, there is still an unmet need for women in the area of women's health. And as you mentioned, Doctor, in the medical field in general, what do you think are some of the barriers that women face when considering going into medicine?
Yeah, I think there's a multitude, right? Some of it is lack of exposure, and I think a lot of it happens to be a lack of exposure, perhaps in your family, in your school. What you don't see, you don't know that you can become. I think that's still part of it. Multifactorial in support that you may get from others along the way, particularly those women that may want a family have often been discouraged into to going into medicine because of some of what is perceived to be barriers in having both a career and a family.
And I would add that certainly it takes upwards of 7 years just kind of coming out of undergrad. With medical school, really it's 8, and then if you tack on what we call postgraduate training, so residency training, that's another anywhere from 3 years to 5, 6, depending upon the specialty. So certainly sometimes people are interested in doing something that doesn't require that much of a time commitment.
And I just want to add the final barrier that I think is out there is the sheer cost of the education. You have the cost of 4 years of an undergrad, 4 years of medical training, deferred income as a resident, and it is very costly. I think at this point, many students are upwards of $300,000 a year for the cost of their education, and that's underestimating because I know I've spoken to some recent grads, and they're more of the $400,000 in loans, and so cost is a major barrier.
Dr. Morris, did you see that there was going to be a need for more women in all areas? Was this something that you saw in college? Is it something that you didn't notice until your professional career? When did you see that there was, for lack of a better term, a problem?
Definitely. I'm the kid that always wanted to be a physician. So I saw, growing up, I definitely saw Black physicians, not necessarily female physicians. And then definitely when I entered into medical school, when you look around at your attendings and those people that are training you, typically there were more men than women. But that wasn't something that discouraged me, and it is possible to have really great mentorship from male physicians. But definitely when we look around as far as who are those leaders that we can model our careers after, we don't always see them, which is the other reason we wrote the book, so that we could make certain that we could pass on our experience to the next generation of women physicians.
Now, as the title suggests, the game plan, does the book suggest an order, a step-by-step guide to overcome some of these hurdles? Does it offer specific encouragement to women in certain fields? Give us a little insight into the inner workings of the book, if you would.
Yeah, I think the book does start off with somewhat of a step-by-step guide and somewhat of an explanation of, the different stages of what is really considered to be the pathway to medicine. But it also gives alternatives. For example, there are many women that go into medicine after they've had somewhat of a career in some other field. And so it does explain that there are alternatives to that one path, per se. And it gives a lot of personal life experiences from all of us that will kind of show women that there are, we're multifaceted, and there are a lot of opportunities outside of the one thing, as you mentioned, that you see on TV.
When it comes to dealing with, I guess, pushback in the workplace, in the field, does the book go into some specifics about dealing with some of this pushback? Does it go into getting specific training, say, in high school and things of that nature?
Not specific information as far as how to deal with pushback, but I think if we arm ourselves with mentors and sponsors and we have colleagues that we can discuss what's going on, then that makes it easier. There's nothing worse than feeling as if you're the only one. And we wrote the book, The Game Plan, so that women would understand that there are a number of ways in which to accomplish your goal of becoming a physician. There are 5 examples here. You are going to create your own game plan, but if you have the support of other people, then that's the thing that helps you to become successful.
Give us a website where we can learn more and get a copy of The Game Plan, A Woman's Guide to Becoming a Doctor and Living a Life in Medicine, if you would.
It's available on Amazon and also at our website, adjlsllc.com.
Dr. Morris, Dr. Boykin, Dr. Walker, I thank all of you for joining us here on Health Professional Radio. It's been a pleasure. I'm hoping that you'll return. And I'm wondering if as the medical community transforms, as medicine changes, maybe this might be a series of guides.
We would love to make that happen.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much for your time.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Silvia Morris, Diane Boykin, and Angela Walker. Audio copies of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also find us on Anchor, Spotify, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.